a lot of people, it's a little intimidating at first, and it's just something that you're going to end up, falling more in love with running.
What's up, guys? My name is Rob, and this is Rob on the Run podcast, a running podcast for all healthy lifestyles. And before we start today, this is season 2. So I decided to, sound really cool and technical like all the podcasters, setting it up with different seasons. This is actually my second guest from the second season. His name is Gus. Gus, how are you doing? Good afternoon.
Doing well. Good afternoon, Rob. How's it going?
Good, man. Thank you for asking. Just trying to pass these last couple of days of the year, man. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, always a bit of a grind to make it through the holidays.
Yes, man. As older I've been getting, man, it's I get less gifts and more chores. I guess for Christmas I got some floodlights to install and all these crazy things that you do as an adult, I guess. So that was my gift. What did you get for Christmas?
Best gift I got was a new pair of Ultras, and my mother-in-law gave me a photo of one of my races. So.
Wow. That's definitely better than me, man. At least you didn't have to, almost electrocute yourself while you're putting some lights on or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's way better than that.
Oh yeah. Especially shoes, man. They definitely, help you out with everything you've done this past year, man. It's amazing.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. I'm always happy to get a new pair of shoes. I eat through those things, so I'll take whatever shoes I can get.
Oh yeah, for sure, man, for sure. And let's start at the basics, the easy questions. How did you start running? I know that I saw your Instagram post where you're kind of breaking down your year. You did mention 3 years. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about how you started. What motivated you to start running, man?
So I started running 3 years ago. It was a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
I'd never been a runner. I was a skateboarder for my whole life.
Nice.
Yeah, and I broke an arm and a rib, and that cost me a fortune. And so I was trying to figure out a safer hobby. Also, I realized that skateboarding was pretty much the only physical exercise I was getting at the time, so I needed it to be like a physical exercise thing as well.
Okay.
But couldn't really get to the gym, which was my other option because pretty much my whole upper body was recovering, and I settled on running. I'm kind of a creature of habit. I was a skateboarder because I grew up near a skate park, and I moved to the Heights around that same time. And there's these, nice bayou trails that a lot of bikers and runners use. And that's pretty much how I decided on running. I got a Garmin as a Christmas present that year. And I decided to use one of their plans to do like a half marathon. And that was my New Year's resolution at the time, was to run a half marathon. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I didn't really know any runners and I didn't really know what to expect. My wife had run in high school.
Okay.
But she'll be the first person to tell you that she, didn't research it or didn't know too much about the sport. She did it once and then never again until I decided to start running. And so I didn't really know what to do. But I got this plan on my Garmin and, went from a couch to a half marathon, and that was about February. And I decided to keep going. I just enjoyed it too much.
Oh, wow. So most people, it's funny that your story is a little different, because most people go from not running to maybe running a 5K. And that's where the couch to 5K usually goes. It's so weird, not weird, I guess, but it's definitely interesting to hear that you went from no running, skateboarding, and then going from that to a half marathon, and then from 1 month to the other, right? You said February you wanted to run a marathon. So basically you had 1 month's training with no knowledge of what real training looks, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so I ran the Katy half marathon. That was my first half marathon. It was in middle February. I I knew, like I'm saying, I knew less than nothing. Like I literally ran like a half marathon as a practice run on like a
Hmm.
Monday. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? There's like this Katy half marathon on, you know, like the later that Saturday. Cause I was originally signed up for the Woodlands one. And I was
Okay.
like, well, maybe I'll just give it a shot. And I did. But in retrospect, that could not have been the best thing to do is to like
Yeah.
run your first half marathon as practice on a Monday and then go run the race on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sort of sense. But I think that's kind of the thing that worked out to some degree for me was that I didn't have any expectations of it. I didn't know better.
Hmm.
So I just did what kind of felt right. I didn't feel like sore, didn't feel beat up from it. And I think that's like a thing that has always served me well was a kind of
Amazing.
going more on feeling than going
Yeah.
more on plans.
And on this Katy half marathon you did, do you remember your time? Do you remember how
I
how it
do. Yeah,
how
yeah.
it
I did
went?
207 and
Okay.
it was like my wife and one of our other friends was there. It was raining and it was not a particularly fun day to be out running.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, oh, okay, I looked up online what was a good time for a half marathon and everyone's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
try for under 2 hours."
Hmm.
And I remember being a little bit bummed about it and I was like, "Well, I still have the Woodlands one to try in a couple of weeks." And so I
Yeah.
did that and I got my under 2 hours there.
Oh wow. Wow. So from no running at all, and then basically two marathons within what, 3 months then?
Yeah, two half marathons to be
Two
fair,
half
but
marathons, sorry, two halves. Sorry. Two halves in the span of 3 months. And after the Woodlands, I mean, or even at that, like where did you go from running a half to deciding to do these 100 milers and ultras?
yeah, well, I think it's kind of the frog analogy, right? You know, the water just starts boiling and you don't even realize that you're boiling,
Yeah.
right? I uh I ran a I decided like to make that New Year's resolution of running a half marathon into like
Hmm.
running a full marathon
Okay.
because I finished it too early was the issue. And so I ran my first full marathon in May and I didn't get under 4 hours there. And so I
Hmm.
was like, well, I'll try to get under 4 hours. And I did later in October.
Okay.
Um,
So you're
and
telling me that it's the same year you started running. You went from the half marathons in February, March, and then in May you decided to up in the ante by doing a full marathon.
yeah, that's
Oh
exactly what I'm
wow.
telling you. We flew out to Cleveland later that year, like
Okay.
to May in May. There was not like a lot of marathons in Texas in May.
Yeah,
So
of course. Yeah.
Um, the one that we had found was in Cleveland, Ohio, and so that was the first marathon I did was in Cleveland, Ohio. We
Oh
ran
wow.
past the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it was a
Yeah.
pretty fun time. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, then the second one, the one that I got under 4 hours in, was in Wichita, Kansas. So quite the spread.
Wow.
But
Wow. That's crazy.
yeah, I got into ultras because the second year in
Hmm.
January, I ended up getting injured slightly. Like I pulled like a calf muscle
Hmm.
and it was kind of a freak accident. I was doing like a fun run
Hmm.
and my foot got stuck in the mud,
Oh
pulled a
wow.
calf muscle, and I had talked to my PT. I was working with him for a while and I realized that I could run 10-minute miles without being hurting too bad, but I couldn't run much faster than that. And I also realized that I could run those 10-minute miles kind of indefinitely.
Okay.
Uh, so I couldn't really work on my speed at the time. So I was like, well, let's work on the distance. And I signed up for the Brazos Bend 50 miler. And that was that. Just kind of fell in love with it.
Oh wow.
Um,
So that's crazy that you say you like you can feel that you can run forever at 10 minute pace, because I'll be honest, man, 10-minute pace sometimes on a marathon I can't. I struggle, man. So it's crazy that that just it's like your perfect this pace, I guess, where you can feel like you can just go forever. Then that's crazy. And so Brussels Bend, you did that. That was your first kind of experience with the ultra world. What did you take away from that? Did you feel very confident? Did you kind of did it kind of humble you in a way when you did it?
Yeah. So to be fair, when you're saying that I could run that 10-minute pace forever, I thought I could run that 10-minute pace forever.
Okay.
Brazos Bend, that first 50 miler, really disproved that for me. I could run that for a while, for
Yeah.
like the first 30 miles or so, but
Hmm.
then like after that, wheels really started coming off.
Okay.
It did humble me a little bit, but it was more less humbling and more like it felt like a challenge. Like
Hmm.
I think to some degree, you know, that's kind of how I kept increasing the distance, kept increasing these races. Was I just would set these goals and maybe I wasn't aiming high enough.
Yeah.
Um, I I kept feeling like I wanted to do more, and
Yeah.
that's what kind of really made me fall in love with ultras. Uh, they're just a different animal, and every little race is different.
Yeah.
Brazos Bend feels a lot more like a road race, but I've done enough at this point that I can tell you that you know a 10-minute mile at Brazos Bend is maybe the equivalent effort of like a 18-minute mile in the mountains of like Tahoe or
Yeah. Oh wow.
uh,
Wow. And it's amazing that you say that because um I find myself kind of in that situation with marathons. I've done 7 already, and every marathon that I've done, I find something new that I need to improve. So that's a challenge for me. It's now become. I'll be honest, it's kind of more of an obsession now because the more I do them, the more something doesn't go right or something. I don't take it as, oh, I'm just not that good. It makes me want to work on that and challenge myself to do better, and I can really definitely see that, with what you're saying. It really resonates with me as well because I, I, I won't stop doing it until I feel that I did my best, and I
oh yeah.
like for me in the marathon world, I'm still not doing my best, and come this next marathon, I'm going to push myself to do better and hopefully break the 4:30 mark, which is my goal, and it's just, a constant challenge for me, and if everything works out, I really want to do the Habanero 100, the 50K.
Oh yeah, that's
You know,
one of my favorite races.
yeah, I went this past year, man. This was first time I went. We went to help out Paco, our good friend Paco. I'm pretty sure you've
Yeah, yeah,
met him.
Paco. They're
And
great.
I, I felt like I was in hell, to be honest. Like it was hot, and that's because they were saying the year before that it was hotter. I was like, I don't know how the hell it can get hotter. It was hot regardless, but I saw how amazing, it's to see, you have your friends and people that are helping you out through the process of you doing this ultra. And I told myself I have to do it. I have to do it. Even if I don't finish, it's fine. But I have to see how far I can go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I don't finish this year, next year I will have that in my belt and have something to learn, and then continue to get better at it. But that's my next challenge, man. That I really want to
That's a
do an
good
ultra.
challenge.
I
I
really really want to do an ultra, man. And tell me about your Habanero 100 because I did see you there too.
Oh yeah. So the a couple different things I wanted to say that you made me think of.
Yeah.
First was like I really admire like when people talk about how they're working on their like marathons and working specifically on like you're saying. I think runners have a tendency to be like kind of data nerds and
Mm-hmm.
kind of try to tweak every little thing to optimize stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about ultra running is that I think feel like specifically marathons are
Mm-hmm.
so much higher stakes, so much higher pressure, right? Like if
Yeah.
something goes wrong in a marathon, you don't really have a way to fix it, right? Like if you
Mm-hmm.
pick the wrong shoes, the wrong socks,
Oh yeah.
um, for a 100 miler, like you got plenty of time to fix it. And that's one of the things I like it about those things, about ultras in general. But as far as habanero goes, I heard you say this on another podcast, that, in Houston, we don't have the hills. We
Yeah.
have humidity.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think that is that is incredibly true. I think that, like, personally, I've done a few mountain races at this point.
Hmm.
Uh, I I don't know how you can be from like a flat state and do that
Hmm.
unless you happen to be doing the stress training that is just like running in the Houston summer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's funny that you mentioned that because if I remember, I also mentioned I lived in Austin for almost 4 years, and Austin is very hilly. It's impossible to find a flat place in Austin other than the
oh yeah.
southeast Austin. Where the marathon they run the marathon. There's a part where it's pretty much flat, but it's hard. It's hard to find it, but. The humidity here is it feels like you're running uphill, basically, and it took me a while because believe it or not, Austin does get humid. I'm not going to say it doesn't,
Oh
but
yeah, for sure.
not as nearly as humid as it is here. And I've grown to love running summers. It was hard for me at the beginning. But man, this past
Yeah.
year when I went to Berlin, before I went to Berlin, I trained for in the summer, like the peak summer time. And man, it when I went to Berlin at those 30-40 degree weather, man, it was
It made all the
amazing.
difference, right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, man. And I'm a strong believer that if you can run a humid summer in Texas, you can run anywhere,
Oh yeah.
no matter what, man. And one perfect example. I don't know if you've met him or seen him around in ultras. My friend Art from Brownsville, Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. He
He's
was he was crushing it in freaking Cactus Rose. It was 100 degrees out there that day, and
yes, man. Yeah,
he still
yeah,
put down, what was it, like 20, 25 hours?
yeah. Just around 25 hours, and he comes from a place where if you find a little rock, that is, elevation.
Yeah.
I lived in the valley for a long time, so I know how bad summers are over there too. I mean, it's humid, it's hot, it's even in the winter it's humid and hot, and then you have to deal with them giant sized mosquitoes that they have over there. And he is crushing it, and he says it like he just, it doesn't matter. It's the way you train, the way you prepare yourself. And he's been doing these very high altitude races, and he's crushing it out there, like you said.
Oh
And
yeah.
he's a perfect example that, you can come from wherever. It doesn't matter if you're not in an elevated place. You can find a way to train for these things. So that's very true. And thank you for bringing that up. At least one person is watching my podcast. That's awesome.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually met your lovely wife there at I think I've seen her several times at the Freaks, but I had
Yes.
never
Yeah.
actually spoken to her. I know Alma, my fiance, has, but I met her that day there, and it was a great person to talk about ultras, but because she had it all by the T, man. She was like on it. She was on it, dude.
Yeah, she's good at that. I always say that, people have asked me, like, what's something that's maybe successful in ultra running? What's maybe something that's able to, allows me to do all this? And I'll I'll tell you, there's no big secret.
yeah,
Uh, I have the world's best crew chief, right?
yeah.
She's in this time period of me doing these races, she's become a better crew chief than I have a runner, I think. She's got that down to a science. So,
Yeah, no,
um,
you can tell, man. You can definitely tell because it's my first time when I went to Habanero. It was the first time I had ever been at an ultra to see like what happens. And then we were trying to, like I mentioned to you, we were trying to help Paco and all the other runners that were coming, CJ and whatnot. And man, I was like a chicken without a head, to be honest, dude. Like I was going back and forward, like, what do I do? Like, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? And your wife was very calm, cool, and collective. She was doing this and getting everything ready for you. And I'm like, damn, like she's really good. Like honestly, if I
yeah.
do Habanero, if everything works out and I'm injury free, I'm gonna have to you're gonna have to lend me a little bit of her knowledge, and so she can
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
Kind of help me
She's
out,
al-
man.
she's always happy to take on people to assist.
Yeah,
I've
no,
literally had people do that, like
she's
to
awesome.
just kind of want to
She's
watch.
Yeah, no, and she's definitely awesome, dude. She was telling us about your races and everything that was coming up, and always with a smile, always very positive. And I'm like, man, this is really what probably someone wants when they're, putting themselves in hell, running loops and in the heat. You want someone to give you that positive reinforcement. And I'm pretty sure she definitely did that. And at Habanero, dude, you did what? You did a 100 miler?
I did the 100 miler out there. Yeah, that's the first. So I've been doing what's called like the Lone Star Slam.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 100 miler series in Texas. It's
Okay.
consists of like 600 milers, which is all the 100 milers in Texas.
Oh wow.
And I did all of them this year, but the season starts at Habanero and it goes to Grasslands, which is in March.
Okay.
So uh, so yeah, I did the 100 miler out there this year. I did pretty good. I was happy with it. I got second in my age group.
Nice.
And actually, that was like my PR at the time. The other 100 milers I'd done before then had all poured rain. So
Oh
even the
wow.
100-degree heat was better than the rain for me. So
Oh wow. Wow. So you're more of a summer kind of guy than a winter guy?
I am, I joke, but it's true. Every like award that I've gotten, so like for like a age group placement or anything like that, has always been in 100-degree heat.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm
So,
also more of a summer person. I'm actually enjoying that we're in December, late December, and there's days that it's 80 degrees. I'm happy with that. I just love the heat. I love when it's hot. Uh, that's just where I feel more comfortable. I hate
oh
wearing
yeah,
long sleeves as I am right now. I'm more of a shorts, sandals kind of guy and a t-shirt, and I'm
I
happy,
get that.
man. I'm happy. I don't like layering up for races or for being trying to be outdoors and doing something. I hate the cold weather, so
Oh,
I'm
I get
actually
that.
I'm enjoying this weather. I'm hoping it'll last a little bit longer, and then we go to summer basically. But the weather's got to come down right eventually. So we'll see
Yeah.
how we do it. But so you're saying you said Habanero, you did there, you PR'd, and then what was your second race of that
Uh,
series?
so the second race of that series was actually Cactus Rose, but in between there, I'd actually
Okay.
done Cowboy, and Cowboy 200's a 200-mile race out in Nebraska,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I froze my butt off. That's man, it was like 50 degrees, and I thought I was gonna die. I was like,
Oh
man,
my
I don't know
God.
how people live out here. There's just too much wind. I'm too cold. I
Yeah.
can't stand this. And I was running with another runner, a friend of mine named Ashley. She's from Colorado,
Okay.
and so she thought this was amazing running weather, and
Yeah.
I just had no idea how anyone could ever survive like this.
Well, yeah, she's
So,
from Colorado. She's used to those blizzards and sub degree weather. So,
oh
uh,
yeah, yeah.
you
We
know,
switched in the daytime though because it's Nebraska, so it's hot in the day, it's cold
uh-huh.
in the nighttime, and uh, everyone was dying in the daytime. I was like, man, it's like 80 degrees. This is fine. This is great. This
This
is
is my 50-degree weather, right?
yeah. This is my 50 degree. This is optimal. Yeah.
And yeah, I remember seeing that on your Instagram that you did the 200. And how was that experience? I have a good friend of mine. His name is his handle is SoCal Runner,
Oh
Steve,
yeah.
and he's done the 250. What is it called? Oh my God, I forgot it.
Cocodona.
Oh, Cocodona. There you go. He's
Yeah,
done it
yeah,
3 times, and I'm so amazed that somebody can put their body to do 250 miles. 200
yeah.
miles is crazy as well, but how did that go? Like, is that your first time doing more than a 100 miler?
It was my first time doing more than 100 miler. I actually went to go pace Cocodona this year,
Okay.
and I just enjoyed it so much that I really thought, man, this seems like a fun thing to do is to try my
Hmm.
hand at like doing a 200-mile race. I'll tell you, it's pretty different, honestly. Like
Yeah.
a 100-mile race is a lot like all the other ultras in the sense that it's a running race, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of like problem solving to it. There's a lot of logistics. People always joke that like a 100-miler is more like a problem of trying to figure out how to get enough calories to, keep fueled up for the entire race. And that's true. But a 100 miler has a lot more in common with a 100K than it does with a 200 miler. Right?
Okay.
Like a 200 miler is like way more of a logistics problem. It's like it's a problem of like, how do you have enough gear? How do you have every gear that covers every kind of situation that you need to be in? Right?
Yeah.
Like Cocodona is like a perfect example of that. When I paced from Sedona up to right when it got to like Flagstaff.
Yeah.
And there was like a period where it was like 90 degrees in the daytime and like straight up, it was like 25 at night. I was like, I don't know how you pack for this kind of weather.
Yeah.
But you carry everything on your back, right? That's like another thing where I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but Jamie was really the biggest part of like how I was able to manage that. Jamie and Ashley, the other runner that I ran with, who, I don't know how people do that alone is the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like being alone and just kind of like dealing with like, for me, how hungry I was most of the time, or, how sleepy was the other biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like never really felt like I could still run by the end of the race, but I straight up, I was like, man, I am so freaking dog tired. I have no idea. Like that's the issue with the 250-mile race. The 200-mile race is it's the sleep, right?
Yeah.
The running isn't going to get you. You're not going fast enough that it's gonna be an issue, right?
The sleep deprivation. Art told me something in the podcast that I had him, that once you hit the 24-hour mark and you have to pass that, that's really where your the sleep aspect of your race really takes over, because being awake for 24 hours, you're so used to, being awake for 12 hours and then get your, 7 to 8 hours sleep or something like that. And that really recharges you for the next day. Right. And being awake for 24 hours. And then after that, it's not only just the mind games that you have sometimes, but now it's the sleep deprivation that really takes over. So yeah, I can only imagine, man, like on these 200 miles, what is the time limit that they give you to run it?
So Cowboy has a pretty short time limit. It's 82 hours, I believe.
Okay.
Or 84 hours. I'm not sure. But it's a fairly generous cutoff for how flat the course is.
Okay.
Cocodona, I think, had like 125 hours as a cutoff for record, but it's 50 more miles and you're covering quite a bit more elevation.
Yeah.
So they're pretty different. Whereas like a 100-miler has a pretty standard 30-hour cutoff most of the time.
Yeah.
Because a 200-mile race or 200-plus mile race, they're all so different, and especially these point-to-point ones where you're not really, doing one loop.
Yeah.
It's covering such varied terrain that they're all very much like tailor-made to whatever the course you're at. That seems to be the going rate.
And talking about that, what do you think, or what do you like best? The ones that are looped, where what you got to do every single time, and I guess mentally, I'm thinking, and keep it in mind, I've never done an ultra, but when you're running a distance like a 100-miler, and you already know where you're at, like you know already what to expect, is that easier than a point to point?
No, it is definitely not easier than a point to point. I personally think points to point are significantly easier, right?
Okay.
Anytime that you see let's say you see a big hill, right? You see this big hill, and let's say it's a 10-mile course, right?
Okay.
So you're going to hit this hill at least 9 more times after the first time you see it.
Okay.
Right? And that starts to be a little bit of a mental drain. Also, you start doing that like trail math a lot more often whenever you see like a loop course. So I guess for me, I typically like to do point to point, or I like specifically very short loops, right? So like like habanero is like a 10K loop.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not going to be, the fun of a point to point, then it might as well be a short loop so that you can, more adequately adjust your gear,
Yeah.
more consistently take your own nutrition instead of the ones from the aid station.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes those quicker loops allow you to see your crew more, and that can
Yeah.
be more beneficial. If you're not going to be able to have like the, easiness on your own psyche of like getting to see all new stuff every time,
Yeah.
then a shorter loop is better. Like I did like a Cactus Rose actually. It was
Mm-hmm.
a 25-mile loop, and
Oh my God.
that course is brutal. That course is insane. I did Brazos Bend in 20 hours this year,
Okay.
2008. And for reference, I did Cactus Rose in 39.
Oh wow.
So it's just running through cactuses in heat in like the most unrunnable course you can. So I'm
Well, yeah, and to what you're saying, even my friend Art did that one. He finished first. I texted him after the race, and he told me it was brutal. And
Yeah, well, he
first,
made it look easy. He
oh,
made it look easy. I saw him
that
at the aid station. I was like, "Oh my god, dude, are you almost done?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm almost done." I
that
was like,
dude
"Okay,
makes
cool."
everything easy, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's definitely made out of something else, man. But I'm so in shock to see him when he does these races and um, his training and what he posts. I love it because he's very very raw. I like it that he doesn't hide anything. He's very upfront and luckily he's going to be on my side. He said he's going to help me get some training plan for Habanero. So you never know. Maybe if he's on my side and he helps me out, I might even win the whole thing on my first try.
there you go. There you go.
Let's just try to make it to finish. That's all I say. I tell him, I was like, just get me to learn how to finish, and I'm okay. I'm okay with that. But yeah, Art makes everything very easy. But like I said, when I asked him, he said it was brutal. It was one of the hardest ones, other than the one he did in Hawaii, the Hurt 100. But he said the conditions were good, but it was tough. The elevation was incredibly difficult. But I mean, man, that's awesome. You did it in 39 hours, but that just shows the grit you have. It's crazy, and I'm still like kind of like, man, he's done this in 3 years of running. You know, um, to me, it's such a small time frame that you've been doing it, and to be able to do these things, and like I think in your post you said just with between races, just the races, not the training, you hit over 1,000 miles in just
I
these
did.
races that
Yeah.
you've done, and that's mind-boggling to hear that because I mean the recovery, it's got to take a while for you to feel back to 100% when you're doing a 200 miler, especially. Like, how long did it take you from finishing to where you felt like you can get back on the saddle and start running again?
Uh, yeah. I get asked about the recovery a lot.
Yeah.
My best advice is always run slower than you think. Right. I don't have a secret to recovery. I don't do ice baths. I barely do stretching. Right. My biggest plans for recovery are eat a whole bunch immediately after the race,
Okay.
and then go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Try to walk around as little as possible, and then go for like a run the day after, like a light run or like a light walk. Right.
Okay.
Typically, that's about as much as I do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I People have always been like, well, there's got to be something more to it, right? You got to do like ice baths or something, right?
Yeah.
No, there's really not. I think the biggest thing you can do
Mm-hmm.
is prevent the need to feel that way, right? So you run slower than you think, and if you run slower than you think, you're gonna do a lot better for your recovery, right?
Yeah.
I went to go run Chicago. Maybe it was exactly a month after Cowboy, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
um, I had a blast. It was a good time. I didn't PR or anything for the record. Like I got like a 324 or something, which was
Mm-hmm.
pretty close to like what I had done earlier that year. I ran Tokyo in about the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the thing is, it's just, it's very much like if you can avoid feeling bad afterwards, then you're going to be so much better off for your recovery. I don't know how you do this if you race every
Yeah.
single run, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, so much about what I love about running is running, right?
Hmm.
I enjoy running. I enjoy being out there. I enjoy trying all these new races, right?
Hmm.
But if I was throwing 100% behind every single one,
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you do that, right? I've met
Yeah.
people that do that, and it's incredible when you can do something that is just so hard on your body. But if you can make it a lot easier on your body by just taking it, a little bit slower than you'd want. I
Yeah.
always say that probably about 30 miles into running these 100 milers,
Yeah.
I make a decision about, am I going to push or am I going to lay off the gas? And if you lay off the gas early enough, there's really not a whole hell of a lot of recovery. Like for Cactus Rose and for Dino, my wife had made plans with our in-laws, so I literally would sleep in the car, got
Hmm.
like a 4 hour nap or whatever, and then we showered and hey, we're over there for dinner, right? But there's races that I've done. After Brazos Bend, that was
Yeah.
my PR for my 100 miler.
Hmm.
I pushed pretty hard there, and yeah, that's probably the worst that I'd felt in a while, right? So I think it's much more about controlling your effort than anything
Yeah.
else.
But you do make a good point about that because that kind of makes sense. I don't know if you've seen on social media on Instagram a guy named Wyatt Moss, which
Yeah,
he ran a marathon in each state in 1 year,
yeah,
and
yeah.
some of the times he would run them in two marathons a weekend, like a Saturday and Sunday, you know.
Hmm.
And that I bring that up because it makes sense. I'm pretty sure that when he was running marathons every weekend, because he basically did it every weekend, you know, he had to run slower than usual so that recovery could be much faster. So that really makes sense, and that's what I was thinking when I was looking at him because I guess the first question I would ask him, like how can you do a marathon every week, and be able to do two every weekend, every other weekend because he did it. I think he did it like 3 or 4 times where he doubled up, but it kind of makes sense what you're saying. If you keep from running every single time fast, the recovery time will be much better. And even at that, in my personal journey, I thought I had to run fast every single time I went out there to get faster, and all that happened is I got injured several times, because I was putting so much strain. And then I finally, with help of a running coach, finally realized this is what you do to get faster. You do this, you run, you have your easy days, you have your hard days, you have your workout days, you have your speed workouts, you have your long runs where you will, half of the time you're going to run at marathon pace, but then you're going to slow down, so there's so many things that at the time when I started running I did not know, and I could have definitely saved a couple of bad injuries if I knew that. But it honestly makes sense. It makes sense what you're saying because you're not putting that much strain in it, So I wish you would have told me that when I started running, man, because like I said, it would have definitely saved me a couple of doctor visits and then taking my money when I could have put it on new shoes, like getting some new shoes for Christmas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had known that when I first started out too. I think the second year that I started running,
Hmm.
focusing on those ultras, I realized that I was, and also because I had been injured as part of that whole early, 2023,
Hmm.
I really did lay off a lot more on my easy runs, and they actually became easy runs, right?
Yeah.
I think I ended up changing my marathon time from 3:55 in
Yeah.
2022
Hmm.
to 3:26 in 2023. And I
Wow.
always say the biggest thing was I did way less track work. I did way less speed work. I did, almost zero time in the gym that second year.
Okay.
The biggest thing was I did a lot more miles, and I did a lot more miles consistently because I was running slow enough that I wasn't feeling so beat to hell every time I get back from the house that I could still, do my work, you know, cook, clean, whatever it was that I had to do. And I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I was going to die. Like, you know, when you
Yeah.
lay down like a hard tempo run, right? Like it
Hmm.
really does take a lot more out of you, right?
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah.
if you're running down your easy runs, it doesn't really matter how long they are, right? Like at
Yeah.
that point,
Hmm.
you can be a lot more consistent with your training, right? That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Is it like you get faster, you get better, you increase your distance, not by necessarily how you're training. It's that you're consistent with your training, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
quickest way to get faster is to run more, right? And the quickest way to run more is to not be injured, right?
Exactly. Exactly. No, I hear you. I hear you. And that's one thing that I'll be honest, I still have a hard time. Because I go out there with a on my easy days, which is usually on Wednesdays, I think. Yeah, Wednesdays. And I tell myself, okay, like go out and run a 10:30 pace. There's no reason for you to, go fast. And then I look, my watch tells me the first mile that it passes, it beeps, and I look 9:05. I'm like, and then at that point, I'm like, I'm already at 9:05. I'm just gonna keep running at the 9:05. So I have to, you know, rewire that brain in me, that part of my brain that feels like I have to run at a faster pace. And it sounds easy to do, but it's
Oh,
such
I
also
get
a
it. It's
hard
not.
thing to do.
Yeah, it's hard to put that up on Strava too. Like when you see like when I first started running ultras, that was the biggest thing. It's like, man, I want people to remember that I am fast, right? Like that I'm not as slow as like what I'm doing every day on Strava,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I get it, but I think that I think that is like a nice gift that ultra running does give to most runners is that you end up having to care way less, right? You end up having to know that like to exist in this space, you're going to have to like put down a lot of slow miles, right?
Yeah.
Your race is going to be slower. And that's the other thing is that your your runs for like a lot of your races are going to be like at 16, 18-minute miles. And
Hmm.
that's going to be phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, then it's not something that is going to be all that impressive.
Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
ultra running makes it so that you stop caring about that as much, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so far the plethora of ultra runners that I've had, which when thinking about that now, you're episode 17. I think I've had more ultra runners than road runners. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's telling me something. I think my subconscious is trying to tell me I
It's
need
trying to
to.
get you information for hopping
Yeah,
out. That's it. You're just
exactly, exactly. And it's so awesome, dude. It's so awesome because every ultra runner that I've had um, says this kind of the same thing as you're saying. Like it's okay to walk, it's okay to have that slow run
oh yeah.
when you're doing these ultras because you gotta in a way it's kind of like they tell you when you're running a marathon you gotta pace yourself. You gotta don't go too hard. Kind of the same thing, but in a bigger perspective, right? Because you're running 100 miles, 200 miles, 250 miles, But I think for the road runner and me, when I started getting curious about ultra running, I guess I was also part of that ignorant people that think that ultra runners are running all the time, you know. And I'm thinking at one point I remember thinking to myself, well, this guy ran 100 miles, but he really walked like maybe 30% of it. Like how is that running, right? And I'm pretty sure some people have told you that. But now that I've had so many, ultra runners, I understand. I understand why you do that. You know, to it's part of the journey. It's
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
It's amazing.
That's it, right? Like I think every ultra runner has their like specific way of approaching running or
Mm-hmm.
approaching races, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I paced a woman out at Tahoe. Her name is Marion, and she walked the entire time. She came in like 10th place for the record, like 10th place for women.
Nice.
And the thing was, she just didn't take any breaks, right? She just never took a break, just consistently walked. She's a very fast hiker. She could lay down like a 15-minute mile walking for pretty much indefinitely, as far as I saw.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, that's kind of like, that's as valid a strategy, like as what I would do, which is like at Habanero, I slept for 2 hours, right? I straight up slept for like 2 hours in a 100-mile race. And the thing is, at that point, you got to run all of your like miles. You got to
Yeah.
run. And I was laying down like, I think no slower than like 11-minute pace the
Okay.
entire time. And that's just, those are both equally valid, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah. And you
You,
have a strategy. You have a strategy that it also, you gotta figure out what's best for you to be able to stay at the optimal condition to be able to do these long distances. It's funny that you mentioned you slept 4 hours. I don't remember the name of the person, but my Paco was telling me that there was a girl there in that group that she did her first loop and then she came back and slept until the
oh,
sun
yeah.
came down. And she's like, I will do the other miles in the dark, like when the sun's not beating me up. But that was her strategy, and it's a valid strategy. If that helps you figure it out within the timeline that they give you, well, might as well do it. But it's now, like I mentioned to you, now I understand. Like I really understand because I was coming from a place where, I've been doing road races, like you said, 26 miles. Something goes wrong, it basically derails all your plans that you had,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm over here thinking of the mentality, it's you got to run it all the way. But like you mentioned earlier, like it gives you the ability to like throw an audible if something doesn't work out. It gives you time to figure out how to, if something didn't work out for you, you have time to figure out another way to do it. But that's
Yeah.
I still think you guys are, as ultra runners, are another type of breed to begin with. And I don't think there's any better runner other than I guess triathletes, that do all three things. But I have major kudos for you guys, man. It's such a hard thing to do, I think. And people say like when you run marathons, you're part of that 1% of runners that do marathon in the world. I can only imagine what it would be for like ultra marathoners. How is it the same percentage or less? I would think it's less, man, because man, the things that you put your body to way worse than a marathon for sure. What
I
do
don't,
you
I don't,
think?
I don't agree, right? Like I get it. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kudos there.
Yeah.
Yes, it's nice to hear. It boosts my ego quite a bit. But no, I personally don't agree. Like I think ultra running is like and trail running in general, for the record,
Mm-hmm.
are incredibly approachable places for most people, right? I think it's like interesting. You'll go to an ultra race and you'll see that there are people of all different shapes and sizes, of all different backgrounds, and they are, out there competing in the same way that everyone else is, right?
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, it's less common to see that, when you're at a marathon, right? Everyone does kind of like have a more fit vibe at like a road race marathon to some degree, right?
Yeah.
There's people that are, all different shapes and sizes that run marathons as well. But I think that in ultra running, it's way more common, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's easier. I think it's just different, right? Like, like it's less physically taxing in many respects. And I think it's maybe more mentally taxing in some respects, right? That's the
Yeah.
big equalizer for ultra running. It's not necessarily like, do you have the fitness to do it? I always say, right, when my friends ask me like, hey, do you think I could do this? You know, someone asked me about Habanero specifically. Do you think I could do the 100K at
Mm-hmm.
Habanero? And I said, yeah, man, it's 30 hours. You have the time, right? You
Yeah.
could walk very slowly, 20-minute mile,
Yeah.
and still take next to 8-hour nap and still complete that in time, right? The
Yeah.
difference is, do you want to do that? And that's kind of the thing that makes it difficult, right? Is, do you want to do that, right? And I think that yeah, for running a marathon, it's a little bit different, right? It is much more like, do you have the fitness to do this, right? Like,
Yeah.
the cutoff for like for what Chevron is like 7 hours, I think, right? Six and a
Yeah.
half, something like that.
It's around 6.5. Yeah. Yeah.
You could walk some of that, right? And
Yeah.
I, for the record, like you're saying, like, I think it's important to kind of like maybe normalize that of like of walking during a race. Like,
Yeah.
I walk during every single marathon I do, right? Like, it's like I don't like to eat and run. I don't like to walk or drink and run specifically. So
Hmm.
like anytime I'm drinking water, like I'll take a walking break, right? Um, and that's I did that when I was a over 4 hour marathoner, and I do that now at like 3:20. So it's both times, right? Like, I think that's both valid, both equally like valid to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, no. And you're right. You're right. And a lot of people, including myself, I think we get stuck looking at the elites, and think that that's the norm for everybody. And you know, I'm not gonna lie, that's how I thought myself, and I think that's where I got the idea that I had to run fast every time I went out when I started,
mhm.
and then I started meeting a lot of good friends of mine that are, they run, 3 hour marathons, 3.5, 340, anything under 4 hours. And they would tell me, dude, I sometimes walk just so I can, catch my breath, or
Oh yeah,
I have to go and to the porta potty to take care of business, and it's quite normal, and I think that's awesome that you say that, because for the new runners, like someone that's picking up the sport for the first time, it's good for them to know that it's okay. It's okay to run and walk if you need to. It's okay if you are able to do it, run it all the way, or take, like you said, drinking breaks, eating breaks, and it's fine. It's fine. And it took me so long to finally let go of that wrong concept, that you have to run it all the time. Because yeah, my last couple marathons, I definitely had to stop and take a little bit of a breather, and let that heart rate go down a little bit, so I can not feel like I'm about to pass out, so it's very important, and at the end of the day, I always tell people that ask me about that, I'm not running to beat the guy in front of me. I'm not trying to PR all the time. I'm just trying to prove myself that I can do it.
oh
That's
yeah,
that's basically it. If it takes me one marathon 4 hours and then the next one 5 hours, hey, that's fine. But all those little things, man, it's so mentally, draining, because it at first, when I used to do that, used to beat myself up and say, you're just not that good. That's the problem. You're not good. And like I mentioned to you, it took me a while, but now I'm at a place where, if I do good, great. If I do bad, I think I get more out of it than when I do good. You know,
yeah, yeah. I
you
get
know,
that. I get
it's
that.
it's it's awesome, dude. It's awesome. And I wanted to ask you a question, because he's a good friend of mine. He's a good friend of yours as well. I know, because I just saw you sporting his new singlet. What do you think about Jose and his strategies of running ultras?
I think Jose is incredible, man. I do. I think I Jose is a great guy. You know him. I
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves Jose.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I also love how much he's inspired so many people to run their first like trail races, their first ultra runs.
Yeah.
Because I think Jose, to some degree, kind of has a really beautiful mindset when it comes to that, which is, he's doing it because he thinks it's fun and he thinks he can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's right. It is fun and he can do it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that you don't have to do these races and be super fast. You don't have to do these races and run the entire thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to do these races and, finish in the top three.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's just a fun thing to do sometimes, right? You know, like
Yeah.
that's the reason that I keep running, is that I enjoy it. I think it's like a fun thing, right? Like if it stopped being fun, I think I'd have a harder time with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
But
For sure.
yeah, I think Jose is a really good ambassador for like trail running and ultra running to begin with. Why? What
That's
do you think,
awesome.
Rob?
I love the dude, man. I enjoy listening to him. I enjoy the whole hype that he has. You know, persona. I guess it's a persona. Let's call it a
Yeah,
persona that he has.
he's got that dog in him, man. He's got.
Yeah, man. I love it. I saw him in Habanero when my good friend Jeremy was interviewing him, and
Mm.
man, it honestly it reminded me of like if he was in the WWE. I think that would be like when, sometimes I don't know if you've ever watched the
Oh yeah,
wrestling, and you know how sometimes they're doing like the pre-fight interviews, and I mean, they're so extravagant the way they talk, and that reminded me of him when Jeremy was interviewing him. I just love Jose. He's definitely a very motivational guy. He he definitely inspires people to do better and try different things, get out of your comfort zone, because I think he has done that himself, and it just one of the reasons why I want to pick up ultra running is basically because of him too, because he's giving me the confidence that I can do it, and that if things don't go well, it's fine too,
yeah.
But yeah, Jose is amazing. The only thing I don't like is that sometimes he gets hurt and he kind of goes a little bit too much and tries to run, and then it gets worse. That's the only thing I always tell him, dude, just chill out, take it easy. But
Yeah.
Jose's
I
Jose, I
agree with
guess.
that. He's definitely that. You know, that's always the thing. I've never had a race that I've wanted to run so much that I would run and knowing I was going to get myself injured. Right?
Yeah,
Like there's never been a race that has been that much a thing that I wanted to do. Right? Like the
yeah,
objective for running is to keep running. Right? It's
yeah,
not to
yeah,
get a under 4 hour marathon. It's not to get the belt buckle. It's to keep doing it. Right? To do
yeah.
it when you're 50. Right? To do it when you're
Mm-hmm.
80. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. And if Jose watches this episode, please, dude, listen to your body. I know you're a monstro. I know you pain is just a tickle to you, but sometimes like that ankle, man. That ankle, I remember it was humongous, man, and he still ran through it. So
oh
please,
yeah.
please, Jose, we want to have you running till you're 50, 80, whatever.
Yeah, Mr. Munster's got to be out there for Rocky, dude.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And I guess now that you got the singlet, you're an
Oh,
official
they came out
monstro.
fresh, didn't they? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love them. I missed out on it. Unfortunately, I should have. My fiance always tells me this. Put a reminder on your phone, and I never do. So I missed out on it. So maybe hopefully he'll release them again, and I'll definitely get a singlet because they're very nice, and I'm glad that he has his signature singlet, I guess I should say. But yeah, Jose is amazing, dude, and he's hopefully he continues to inspire more people with the way he challenges himself and makes these ultras look like they're 10Ks.
There you
But
go.
actually, you know what? I don't like I mentioned to you earlier, I don't want to take too much of your time. So we were already here at the segment where we have our previous guest. He asked a question. It was my good friend Mark. So we'll give him a little bit of time here, Gus, so he can throw out the question, and then you'll have your chance to deliberate your answer. Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Awesome.
If they could start their running journey over, like their running journey over, what would be the one or two things that they would change, that they would do differently, and I want them to elaborate on that.
So, if I could go back and tell myself anything when I first started running,
Mm-hmm.
it would probably be don't focus on the speed, don't focus on the mileage, focus on the fun that you're having, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's like a thing that it's easy to forget sometimes when you're focusing on your goals, when you're focusing on your race plans. It's
Yeah.
that for most of us, this isn't a job, right?
Yeah.
For most of us, this isn't a career. It's
Yeah.
not how we get graded on our like paychecks or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, it's a hobby, and it's a thing that you're supposed to love,
Yeah.
right? I think that that's like something that gets lost a little bit when you make it more about accomplishing these goals than doing something that you love, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's like, to me, the part that I focused on maybe a little bit too much when I first started running was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, let's hit these distances, let's hit these marks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think now that's a fun thing to do, is to hit those distances, to hit those marks, but it's about doing these things, doing these races because they're just fun to do, right? You
Yeah.
just love running.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like the advice that I give myself, and that, and hit up the trails earlier than I did, right? Because I think I encourage anyone. I'm a Houstonian, and I grew up in the Heights, grew up inside the Loop, and
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have a whole hell of a lot of opportunities to go do trail running.
Yeah.
I I'd encourage everyone to try that out a little sooner than they think. You never know, but I think for a lot of people, it's a little intimidating at first, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just something that you're going to end up, falling more in love with running, right?
Or either you hate it or you love it, right? One or the
Yeah,
other. There's nothing in between.
but you'll know pretty quick,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so give
Yeah.
it a shot, right?
Yeah. Then that's kind of the same way I did my marathon. The first marathon I did it in Chicago, and I told myself, just do the marathon. If you hate it, then at least you tried it, And if you love it, well, I guess it's going to be kind of part of your DNA. You're going to want to do more. And I remember I did it and it was horrible. Like I hated because I got cramps very early, but in horrible in the sense that it was a challenge. Like you mentioned in the beginning, it was a challenge and I just fell in love with the challenge.
There you
And
go.
I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I will say I'm done with it. I mastered it. I don't think there's a such thing as mastering in running, but I just love it. I love the distance. But because I've done the distance, I want to do more. I want to see where to what point where's my limit to my body, you know?
Yeah.
Someone told me one time, they're like, your body as humans, we can do more than what you think you can.
Oh yeah.
You know?
For
You're
sure.
the one that puts the limitations. Like I remember doing a half marathon and then thinking, marathon, nah, that's too much. I can't do that.
If you
That's
told me
just too
3 years
much.
ago, yeah. If you told me 3 years ago that I was going to run a 200-mile race, I would have like laughed in your face, I think. But
Yeah, and it's crazy because we put those negative affirmations out there. You're already saying no before you even try it. You know, and I've learned from those thoughts. And that's why now instead of being like ultras, no, they're just not for me. After doing 7 marathons, now I got that little bug. If I can run 26 miles, what makes me think I can't run a 50K? It's not that big of a difference between 26 and a 50K, so it's definitely opened up my mind to doing something more. And I think this year it will be the year because other than Chevron, that's the only marathon I'm running this year, and I'm getting married because I should have gotten married 3 years
congratulations.
ago.
Yeah, there you
Thank
go.
you, thank you. And it's my fault. I'll make it very public. It's my fault because I sign up for races without asking for permission with the boss. I just tell her, hey, by the way, New York in November, we're going. I got a race, or Berlin. We got to go in September, so no plans. And then she will tell me, how about we start planning for our wedding? I'm like, I'm sorry, I already got plans.
oh, that's funny. Yeah, see, it's super easy for me, right? Jamie Jamie's my crew chief, but she also is a runner. So we plan a lot of our vacations around running. You know, like our anniversary was in Tokyo this year.
Nice,
For the
nice,
Tokyo
nice.
Marathon.
But yeah, she's definitely a trooper, man, because she puts up with my craziness, which she started it, and I told her, I was like, it's your fault. You should have never invited me to the Minute
Isn't that
Maid.
how it always works out, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started that one, and I also asked myself. I did the 5K, and I asked a good friend of mine that was a runner, and I was like, what is a decent 5K time? And he's like 30 minutes. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to beat 30 minutes, and I think I got like 29:30 or something like that, very close to the 30 minutes. But I was happy. But just the medal. I'm a sucker for medals, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I am a big sucker for medals, and I just
I get that.
I love them, dude. I like the medals you have behind, man. Those nice, beautiful belt buckles that you
thanks.
have. You know, it's that motivates me to get one because they're special, man.
Yeah, I did this one specifically just because I thought it was a cool buckle.
And do you wear them, or you just have them there on the wall?
I wear them. I wear my wife. She's on the rodeo committee, so
okay.
So we go to the rodeo every year, and
Nice.
I get a good opportunity to dress like a cowboy.
Nice. Then I definitely need to get on that bandwagon because there's something special about buckles. You getting buckles, you know.
It's like a medal that you can wear, and no one asks any questions, right?
Exactly. But dude, what have you ever thought of doing Leadville, the Leadville 100?
I've thought of doing Leadville.
Okay.
I've thought of doing Leadville, but the race that I personally have my eye on, you know, I feel like if you ask a ultra runner, specifically if you ask anyone that's done like a bunch of 100-milers, the races that you'll have is like your dream races are always Western States, Hard Rock, Leadville, and the one that I personally would like to do, which is Badwater. Right?
I've heard of that one. I've heard of that one in the States. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Badwater is kind of like Habanero in the sense that it's like it's all about the heat, right, and mitigating the heat, right. So it's like it's in Death Valley in the summer. It's it's 100 plus mile race. You know, it's much more about mitigating the heat than anything else. But for me, that's what I can practice. So, you know, that's my bread and butter.
Yeah. You're in the right place to do that. Unless you live in Death Valley, then you might have a little bit of an upper hand.
But Leadville would be a fun one to do too. So I got my eye on a bunch of different 100-milers. I got to convince Jamie that we got to go on vacation for.
No, and to me, Leadville is one of those that I want to do. I definitely want to. I don't know. It's hard to do those, I guess, because I definitely feel like you have to have a good crew, and to ask a couple people, 2-3 people to stop what they're doing in their lives to fly to Colorado to do these things. I feel so bad to do. You know,
I get that, but you might be surprised. You know, like that's a thing, right? Like I crewed or paced 4 different 200-milers at this point. And I think the thing is, it's like a lot of times you think it's fun, right? Like it's fun to go check it out. It's fun to go, especially if you get to pace, then you get to go run. You get to check out the course for free, right?
There you go. Yeah.
You know, you pay for the Airbnb. A lot of times you can sell it as a vacation, right? And I think you might be surprised. Ultra runners like to run, right?
Yeah.
So get them out there. It's probably an easier sell than you might think. You know, I get it. It's a hard ask.
Yeah.
A lot of times to get someone to take off work, but usually that's like the only thing that ever really stops a runner from like going out there to crew you. It's
that thing called work, man, a job. Jeez.
Yeah.
I wish we could have a 365-day vacation, man. Yeah, the job always gets in the middle, man. I always tell people, like, the person that invented the job, like working, must have been a very unpopular person to begin with, and probably not even a runner or a person that liked to be outdoors to do other stuff. But Yeah, I mean, you have to have a job to pay for these things, so I
Oh
guess
yeah,
it
man.
goes hand in hand. But I wish they would give us a little bit more vacation time. You know, you're a runner, you get another week.
There you go. Right. You got to give me something. Right?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. But we're almost here at the end here, Gus. As always, the tradition is for the next guest, which would be episode 18. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah. So I just talked about how Badwater was my dream race. You were talking about how Leadville was your dream race. My question is, what's your dream race and why?
Nice, nice, nice. Yes, you definitely Leadville is one of the my dream races, and I don't know. Maybe since you're more in the ultra marathon or ultra scope, do they still send you the acceptance letters like in a physical letter, or they stopped doing that?
I actually don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Leadville does that anymore. So,
But I knew they did back before COVID, and I don't know what they things have changed, obviously. But I remember following a ultra runner, and they got this cool little letter typed, all typed in, saying, you know, congratulations, you were selected because I think it's a lottery for Leadville, if I'm not mistaken. It's not just a
Leadville is a
registration.
lottery. Yeah,
Yeah.
Leadville's a lottery. It's a little bit more intensive. You have to like run a couple of like Leadville's races,
Hmm.
like the Austin Rattlers, the one in Texas that they
Hmm.
give out like X amount of spots.
Yeah.
Um, they have Hard Rock as an application, Western States is a lottery, and then Badwater is also an application process. So those kind of give you like an email back that are like almost like a college acceptance letter, right? Like,
It's kind of like when you're looking for, you know, London and Tokyo and New York. Did you get in the lottery? And then you
oh
get
yeah,
that way, and especially New York, you get this email from this dude. He became very popular, by the way, because he didn't even know they were using his picture for the
yeah. The guy that
rejection.
was the no letter, right? Like,
Yeah, he's all like real
yeah,
happy, and then you think you got him because you're looking at it, it's like, yes,
yeah.
it's a happy email, and then, oh, sorry, you weren't selected. I'm like, then why,
Then why are
like,
you putting this nice guy's face on here, right? Like, come at me with like some angry dude that's pissed off,
yeah,
right?
or maybe don't put a picture, just give me a thumbs down or something,
Thumbs
you know.
down, dude. Like anything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. But I guess now that you're mentioning these lottery ultra races, is there such thing as like kind of like in road racing, the marathons, the major marathons? Do they have kind of that equivalent in ultra running?
They do. So they have what's called the World Trail Majors. It just kind of started up recently. It's
Okay,
10 majors across the world. One in the United States is Black Canyon.
okay,
Uh, but you have like Hong Kong 100. They have the Mount Fuji 100. They have Cape Town. So it's
okay.
just a list of different 100 milers around 100 milers, 100 Ks
Mm-hmm.
around the world. But
Oh,
kind
that's
of like
awesome.
the World Trade Majors, it's much more of like a either you're a pro, but this is like for points and for your rating,
Okay,
or you're like doing this, just for bragging rights and for completion, right?
okay, okay.
So,
Well, that's cool to
but
know because it just popped in my mind when you were telling me about those lottery runs or races that you have to do through lottery, and I was like, man, it. I wonder if they have it because I mean, you only hear it much on the world majors. Obviously, Abbott's a big sponsor. That's why they advertise so much. But that's cool to know that I'm actually going to research that now. Maybe I might have another goal to add to the list of goals that I have.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd say the other two things to look at are like
Hmm.
UTMB and Western States kind of act as like a unofficial like championship thing. But
Nice.
like if you ever look into it, right?
Yeah.
Those are both like kind of the other two that get mentioned. Although plenty of people have their problems with UTMB, so just be
Okay.
advised on that.
Okay. Okay. No, definitely. I'm gonna have to nerd it out a little bit on that for sure, man. And we're all the way at the end. I left probably the hardest question that I wanted to ask you. The most hardest question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but how long did it take you to grow that amazing beard?
Ah, thanks. Yeah. Probably about a year and a half, probably, I guess,
Oh my
right? I
God.
trim it up every week. Otherwise, I look like a Civil War general or something.
Oh my
So,
God, dude. I really feel bad because you see this right here?
yeah, yeah.
Take a guess. Take a guess how long it took me to get this.
Month.
No, 3 months.
Okay, that's not too bad. You made it sound like it was going to be like a year and a half or
Oh,
something.
come on, dude. But a year and a half, you got that beauty over there. And
Oh, thanks, man.
this is I wish I had a big ass beard, dude. I envy you and Steve because Steve has a beautiful beard. But now looking at your beard, dude, I don't know. Steve kind of is number two now. Because
Oh,
yeah,
thanks.
I love that beard, man. I envy you because I wish I could have a big beard. I don't know if
I
the
appreciate it,
missus
man.
would enjoy it.
Yeah,
But
it's always
I
the selling point, right?
yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I just love it. I think the first time I saw you at a Freaks run, that's the one thing that I was like, man, badass beard, man. That's a badass beard. Jeez.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's a year and a half. That's
Yeah,
very
yeah.
very fast, man. I think it's very fast. I don't know. I don't know what's the standard or whatnot, but the sounds pretty nice.
Oh yeah. Well, my name on like IG and my
Hmm.
socials is Caveman Gus.
Hmm.
It's kind of a nickname I've had with some friends.
Okay.
If you, I kind of started really like growing out my hair and stuff during COVID, and then
Okay.
like I looked before I started shaving the sides of my head. I looked like a big ass like caveman was the thing that people always
Yeah.
used to say, right?
Yeah.
Like our Hagrid. I used to get that a lot. So,
Mm. Okay.
but so sort of a blessing and a curse if your hair grows out that fast, man. Because I gotta like trim this thing. People always like joke with me, like, "Oh yeah, man, like, I bet you did that so you didn't have to shave anymore." I was like, "Man, this is more work than if I shaved everything."
No, but now you kind of look more of a like a Viking now
Oh,
with the
thanks.
shaved
Yeah,
sides. I think that that was kind of like more of a Viking thing. At least that's what I think. Maybe I that's just me watching a lot of
no, no,
uh,
that's what I was going for. I think, right?
sitcoms
Yeah,
and stuff like on
that and
shows.
just keeping it cooler in the summer was the biggest
Oh
two
yeah,
things.
I can imagine. And that's another little follow-up question. How does it feel to have such a big beard in the summer, man? It's got to be brutal.
Yeah, it can be a little brutal. Yeah, for sure. I think it's just one of those things, though. Like I look a lot better with a beard, so it's worth the pain to just not look like a 14-year-old child.
Man, when was the last time you were clean shaving then? Like where you
Oh,
probably
I
had like let's say a beard like this, but you still had where you were completely, no beard, nothing.
just before COVID, I lost my fantasy football league and I had to shave.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It looks so bad, like that. That my friends made a new rule in my fantasy league
Yeah.
saying that you could never ask us to shave again for like losing the league
So maybe
because all my
shave the hair on top than
yeah,
the
all my
beard.
friends were like, "Nah, dude, we can't hang out with you. You're like, go grow your beard and then like come back and then we'll hang out again, Gus. You look too uncool right now."
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, if you were to come to Freaks with no beard, I probably would not even. I would probably tell out of my look. I think Gus and his wife are gone. They're not together anymore. This is a new guy.
This is a new guy,
Something.
yeah.
I was like, who's a new guy, man? What happened to Gus?
Yeah.
I don't think I would recognize you, man, because yeah, that beard is now like kind of like a trademark of Gus for sure.
Yeah, that for sure. Thanks.
But
Appreciate
anyways,
it.
Gus, I appreciate your time. You already gave us your IG. Is that the only place where you usually post, or do you have any other socials that you would like to give us?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm Caveman Gus on everything,
Hmm.
on TikTok, on YouTube.
Okay.
I got a bunch of videos that I've been working on, specifically just kind of for the Lone Star Slam, and
Okay.
I have a continuation of like the Lone Star Slam. I'm starting up with Bandera and then
Okay.
Rocky Raccoon and
Okay.
Grasslands next year. But I have a bunch of videos that are going to be going up on YouTube here in a little bit. I working on this new YouTube channel. So that's
sweet, man. Definitely. I hope everybody that watches this episode goes and follows you, because you're definitely a really big inspiration for me, for most people that watch what you do. And again, the big thing I admire is such a short time, and you're already running these amazing races, and that's just really solidifies that you can definitely do a lot more than what you can think. And that's my biggest motto since I started running marathons. And I hope people, whoever sees it, even if your goal is to just start running, you can do more than that. You can push your body to bigger limits, and don't let that mind of yours tell you otherwise.
Couldn't agree more.
We're humans, and humans definitely were put here to do crazier things, man. So I think I enjoy your content again, Gus. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll keep an eye on your other races, and seeing how long that beard can grow, and hopefully we never have to. At least if you lost your fantasy football and you come out clean shaven for some reason, if that actually happens, we know why. We already know what happened. But again, say hi to the missus over there. We love her as well for what she does, and in the running community. And we'll see you next time, man, at the Freaks Run or something.
Sounds good. See you next time, Rob.
All righty, buddy. Have a good one.
All right. Well, bye.
Bye-bye.